So now that we've gotten everyone thinking about how to oil that perfect sales engine, let's move on to talking about some of those new technologies that are on the horizon and at the disposal of CROs. And I can think of few people to lead a really impassioned discussion around that than our next moderator, Rajiv Tham, who is a principal at Sapphire. Rajiv has been with the firm since 2013, and he has been a key part of driving our investments in companies like Looker, Crux, Localytics, Cloud Health, and many, many more. And he is somebody who very, very closely monitors the sales tech landscape, has a very keen perspective of what is meaningful, what are some meaningful trends in that space, and parsing that from the noise. And even beyond the sales tech market, sort of as a space that we as VCs can invest in, he's truly passionate about helping all startups and all of our portfolio companies achieve best-in-class sales metrics. And I would know because I've been sitting next to Rajiv for the last 2 years in the office, and if by lunchtime on any given day I haven't heard the words CLTV, CAC, ACV about 30 times, something's not right. So with that, I think Rajiv is going to lead a great discussion. Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. Very flattering. Hope you guys are having fun. I am. As Shruti mentioned, spent a lot of time in sales and marketing technology investments for Sapphire. I'm an investor on the growth team, and I'm excited to have our panelists. Please join me. Evan and Manny, as well as 2 more panelists after this session. Hopefully, we've done a good job separating hype from reality with these 4 panelists in the sales tech space. I guess a good way to get started is please introduce yourselves, your companies, what you kind of saw in the market as well that led you to start your respective businesses.
Happy to get started. So my name is Evan Liang. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lean Data. And I started the company actually based on my own pain points when I was building my sales stack at my last company, specifically around the data and how big of a SS it was and how bad that it really inhibited me from scaling my team. And so what Lean Data does is we help folks like Lars, specifically sales and marketing operations, fix their data issues so that they can automate and scale their sales processes. And the first one we really solved was really around lead to account matching. So for anyone who knows stuff in Salesforce, we were the first ones to really see that as a huge problem, solve that pain point from a data perspective so companies like Marketo and Cloudera could automate functions on top of that. And we today help a lot of large enterprises really with end-to-end lead routing and marketing attribution. So,
Manny, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. Co-founder, CEO of Outreach. So Outreach is a sales engagement platform where your rep performs all the functions such as SDR, reaching out, taking inbound leads, following up. We automate that entire end-to-end workflow so that your SDRs are free to only take the very human actions that are needed to close an account. The way that we came about is that we had a previous startup that was in the recruiting services business, and we were running out of cash. How many startups here, by the way? Can you raise your hand? How many are pre-Series A? How many are post-Series A and pre-Series B? And how many are pre-C and post-B? All right, so we're in the A, B range, so which is great. So we're running out of cash, and so we decided to build a platform that will make me sell like 10 people. So we did that, and that was Outreach. And then I went up and down the Soma, selling door to door until we got to $1 million in AR, and then we raised a round, and that's how I'm here. So
awesome, great.
Yeah.
I got to ask, a couple years ago there was a lot of fuss about sort of predictive everything, predictive marketing, predictive lead scoring, and it feels like over the last couple of years, and I've seen it in our portfolio companies, over 50% of them are implementing some form of account-based marketing, sales development, outreach. What's the fuss about? What does that mean in application? What kind of impact does that have? Evan, feel free to start.
Yeah, sure. So for me, I mean, the exciting thing about, so account-based is actually, if you talk to the previous panelists, they'll tell you their top reps, they've always been account-based, right? This is not a new term. This is not a new strategy. They've always had named accounts, target accounts. Your best reps know how to run an account-based playbook really, really well. What's exciting today is that there are technologies like Lean Data, which help you with routing and outreach with the sales cadence, that allow you to take those reps' productivity and scale them, right? And automate those functions. That's what's exciting about account-based. Where the hype, I think, is around the account-based, and it's great that you mentioned the predictive stuff, is where I think it's where the rubber meets the road is when you scale an existing pain point that you've always had. It makes a lot of sense. When you start inventing new use cases just to make the technology fit, right, then it starts becoming more hype. And we saw that with the predictive stuff, over the predictive lead scoring, where I think it made sense, right? But then they started saying, like, we need to sell more of it, so they came with a bunch of use cases that were a little bit of a stretch. And I think you're starting to see that in a little bit of the account-based space as well, where people, it's not a new strategy. It's an old strategy done better and at more scale. So that would be my take.
Yeah, I think that people have been performing some type of account-based for a while, and the majority of these are called name accounts. And I think where I get excited about account-based is the fact that now you have marketing helping throughout the funnel. And that's really, for me, what account-based means, is that you have your name accounts that your reps are going after, but marketing, use some kind of demand base or something else to bring in some leads of the right kind. And then field marketing is helping you drive the right initiatives in the middle of the funnel so that you can actually remain engaged all the way to the close. I don't really see how predictive really fits into that particular pie, other than telling you what accounts to go after and which ones you don't. But most reps don't have issues trying to figure out what accounts to go after or not. You already know. You just need to know how to do more activities and how to drive the right actions with the right people. Most sales organizations that I've seen have lack of the right activity. They're not doing enough calls, they're not creating enough pipe, they're not running enough meetings. I have yet not met a VP of sales who doesn't need more meetings. Does anybody here does not need any more meetings? Right. So none of the predictive stuff is gonna give you more meetings. Activity is gonna give you more meetings. And that's sort of from where I sit, what I see.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned sort of marketing through the funnel. Goes to the next topic, marketing, advertising technology, and advertising in general, a lot of top of the funnel demand gen, a lot of dollars flowing there.
Yeah.
What's the balance between sort of pure play sales, technology, budget, and focus versus still top of the funnel demand gen and marketing, pure play marketing budget? How's that balance been?
Yeah, so I think the trend that we're really excited about is kind of this emergence of the sales and marketing operations. So I think it's really these new guys who are coming on board, who are taking a data-driven approach to really trying to make these sales process kind of from an art to a science. And so we are starting to see that certainly at the larger clients that we work with, they have a dedicated sales ops team, folks like Lars who have the budget and can drive those initiatives, whereas like 5 years ago, it was mostly marketing paying for that. So I would say kind of like 2 to 3 years ago, most of the folks who were buying technology like ours were marketers, and I'm kind of seeing that more. Maybe it's still 60-40 marketing sales, but it is definitely shifting from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, that marketing tech and marketing ops is getting way more involved into what our salespeople are using, mostly because it brings them visibility as to what is the rep saying, what collateral is he using or she using. Is that impactful? Can we break this down by persona and analyze our original hypothesis of whether the right messaging is in the right persona? So we see movement in that direction. It's like, how do you get visibility throughout the funnel at the activity level, meaning at the rep talking to customer level, and is that really working out so the marketing can make adjustments? So I don't think that there is a scenario in which marketing and sales don't get really aligned in the future. Like, companies will get this and it will just happen. Right, and the ones who get there first will be very, very successful. So whatever tools enable more of that happening, more visibility, more measuring, it's just going to get people there first.
Sure. Yeah. Manny, I want to switch gears a little bit. There was a comment made on the last panel around the importance of maintaining culture, right, within a sales organization. You guys are obviously a rapidly scaling business right now and hiring a bunch of folks. What do you, tactically or not, just sort of what are some of the best practices that you've employed to create a great and sustainable culture in the sales organization or even more broadly? Yeah.
It's a great question. So it's hard to get fancy here because it's really the main thing to keep your sales team running well is that they need to win. And I know that sounds trite, but that's pretty much it. And you need to get him at bat more, and then get him to hit more often and get on base and then continue doing it. And so for us, it has broken down into a couple things. One is I care deeply about rep participation. So if my quarter is being delivered by my top 10% of my reps, then there is something really, really wrong, and I need to look into it, because that means that there is a bunch of other reps that are unhappy, and my top reps are going to get poached. So it's only a matter of 2-3 quarters before you have a mediocre sales organization. The second thing is the ramping time. So I hear a lot of noise in the Valley specifically around, I ramp up reps in 2 months, I ramp up reps in a month and a half. It's killing it. Everybody's killing it here. There's no lack of that. So and that that's not true. Like it takes 3 to 5 months to ramp a rep. I mean, the study that you sent me the other day, it takes a while to make him really successful. So invest in that. And then once you have him ramped, then measure 6 months, and then have another batch of training, so that they really know how to talk about your product, how to talk about your different personas, test them on it, have them do demo training, et cetera. So you have to not only make the rep, you have to have a very prescribed path on how the rep wins. And then you need to hold your enablement team and your VP of sales accountable to make sure that the average rep is winning. Once you have that running, then it's easy to run hire and fire, et cetera. Right. But if you don't have that, and all you have is a bunch of a lopsided the curve where a few people are carrying the majority of the quarter, then you need to stop and reconsider.
That's helpful. Time to put you on the spot.
Sure.
I have another question for you. I'm allotted to Evan's part of a recent addition to the Sapphire family. AI, right? Everyone's talking about it. We're looking at it at Sapphire. There's a lot of now the vertical or line of business applications where you're kind of embedding AI. What is the role? Is there a role? Talking about the balance between art and science and sales. Is there a role for AI within sales and sales technology?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was starting with and to the earlier question around just trying to solve a use case and a pain point. Right. So, I mean, we as a company, way back when, to build our matching algorithms, we use machine learning. But we don't call ourselves an AI company. We were solving a specific pain point, and then that technology helped us build a better algorithm. But again, if AI does have a role, provided that you can find those pain points that people are doing either manually or inefficiently, or the human is just not analyzing it correctly, and AI has a place in correcting that and making it better, then it has a use case. But when I see things like AI is just going to solve everything magically, and it's just a silver bullet that's a black box that will just spit out and you don't need sales reps, that's when I think it's really, really hype, because people are just having a fancy technology versus actually trying to solve a pain point.
Yeah. Manny, anything there?
I take a little bit of a different approach. In that, Evan is absolutely right. AI, machine learning gets applied to, it's a tool that gets applied to a problem. But just like you don't see a future in which cars don't drive themselves. I mean, all here know that will happen. I also don't see a future in which every rep handles every single piece of communication. And I'm gonna let that sink for a minute. Because what will happen is that it's not hard to take all the volume of communication that is happening in any one of your sales organizations and eventually modeled out, a conversation system that sort of spits out recommendation sentences that you can use in particular cases. So for instance, we know from running an outreach that not every no is a no. That you can push back on no's, and you got about 60% probability that you say, look, you really need my product for these 5 reasons. I know you don't think you did, but you do. And let me tell you why. 60% of the people will say yes to that second pushback. Right, but unless you do it, you won't have it, and most people don't do it. But the machine can do it, because the machine has no feelings. It just understands probability. You see what I mean? So there's all these gains that will happen from having your machine run a few of these conversations for you, or at least recommend it. And this will happen. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So there is progression around that particular areas of usability that are happening right now. Like we're pushing some of that.
Got to address the elephant in the room, or maybe not in this room, but in general. Salesforce, you guys are both tightly integrated and kind of within the Salesforce ecosystem in one way or the other. How do you see them, friend or foe? What's your view of them?
So today I view them very much as a friend, but it's one that I watch very, very closely, just because at any point in time they can turn on you. So I think very much.
That's not a friend.
Not a true friend.
Yeah.
I'm pretending to be a friend.
That's right.
So I mean, yeah, we keep a close eye on them, but we would probably try to play nice with them. They're the 900-pound gorilla.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. For us, Salesforce is a very useful construct because they push the cloud. Meaning, I know if somebody's running Salesforce, I don't have to wonder whether they have a CRM deployment that is on-prem. And that makes everything easier because I know exactly how to operate in that kind of environment. I don't get the same thing from Dynamics or SAP for, even though they sponsor this event, or Oracle. And they won't disclose their numbers, so we don't know what to make of it. Whereas, Salesforce, it's on the cloud and you know what to play with. Now, is there a situation in which we compete in the future? I don't know, maybe.
You guys got a piece of sort of parting advice for the folks in the crowd? A lot of them are seed, Series A and B startups.
Yeah.
Anything? Manny, you can go ahead and start.
Be your team SDR. So the SDR role is probably one of the hardest roles in an organization because you get a lot of no's. And you won't know what an SDR day is like unless you live it yourself. And so do that job. Like, don't hope that a VP of sales shows up and organizes it for you. Do it. Get a list, call them up, send them emails, try to get that meeting. The good news is that as a CEO or as a founder or whatever, you're going to get a lot of yeses, or it won't be that hard. But at least you will understand what it takes to run an SDR organization. So you can actually set one up or know what it's like to set one up. So do that role, even if you're in the B, even if you're in the C. I still jump in the SDR pit every once in a while, like every quarter or so, and make some phone calls. So that I don't lose that feel for the hunt.
I'll take on a different role. So one of the things, I was our first customer success manager. And then when I hired my head of product, I made him take on customer success because I wanted him to be right in on the ground and really understand our pain points of our customers before I trusted him on what he could do from a product roadmap perspective. And so I would say, similar to understand this SDR role, get really, really intimate with your customers and keep a very open mind around what they're telling you about your product. So for us, we got into the lead to account matching space not because that was the vision of the company when we first started, but because we were starting to hear from a couple of large customers. And unlike other people who were like, no, we don't do that, we're just like, why do you want that, right? And we heard it enough times that we were like, gosh, that's a crazy pain point. And we're like, we can't believe no one else has solved this, right? And so we were just like, no, we're gonna build something and we're not gonna let that be the status quo. And so those insights really drive in from customer success. So I'm a firm believer, if I had to do, from a company, customer success and product have to be very, very closely aligned. And it can't just be product treats them as a support staff that just solves their problems and tells the customer go away. So.
Awesome, good. Any questions from the audience? I think we have a few minutes left. Feel free to fire away.
Assuming this is mostly sales calls, so I'm not talking specifically about magic number, CAC, LTV. I'm talking about the stuff that salespeople can start to focus on early on.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when you're sort of at the very early stage, you're sort of just trying to get the sales off the ground. I think one of the things that I would look at is really, as Manny mentioned, just setting quotas and making sure people are hitting them, right? And how many of your folks can hit quotas in a repeatable fashion is the most important thing. You don't want to have one-star salesperson or the CEO themselves performing all of the sales, and you hope that you can get a playbook that's somewhat distributed across your first few sales folks. And so if I were looking at an early stage company, I would look at sort of the attainment to quota and the repeatability amongst a distributed sales force, even if it's 3 to 4 folks. Any others? Good. Oh.
Real quick, with all the automation in the room, it's incredibly easy to fall into the trap of automating yourself into oblivion. Where do you draw the line between how to use automation as a tool versus literally turning the thinking, breathing salespeople into robots that aren't adding value?
You automate what is, tried and non-value add, right? So you sync stuff to CRM, that should be automated. If your follow-up is going to say just following up on this last email, that should be automated. If you have something insightful to say, then write it, say it. So this is not, the argument around automation is not whether it will happen or not. It will happen. Like the question is how smart can the human get to really drive value, right? I crack open a conversation if I say something insightful about you, meaning if I spend time doing research, I come up with something that really cracks the wall and allows me to say something. It's a noisy world, and you have to really put your human capacity to use to do something useful. Otherwise, it will get automated.
I mean, and given any given sales rep's time, right, a lot of it, what they're spending time in is not that value added to the sales process.
Yeah.
It's like data entry, manual tasks, like rerouting, all this other stuff. Those are the things you go after automation first.
Like the problem that Lean Data is solving is huge. Like you see an inbound lead coming in, and there's no need for you to actually map that to an account, turn that lead into an account, and then figure out whether it belongs to a big account. Like all that stuff should go away. Like there's no reason to hire people to do that.
So we sell almost exclusively to really big companies, 5,000 employees and up. And even within that universe, we've had a heck of a time just getting a list of the companies in the United States that are in that bucket. Just every data source we look at for this is worse than the previous one. And then when you try to find the people within those companies, it gets even worse. Like even the sources that are supposed to be canonical, like data.com or Hoover's or whatever it is, just a reliable list of companies seems to be hard. How are you solving that problem? Because it's really hard to automate against an underlying data set that is that unreliable.
Who you're selling into?
Fortune X 1,000 companies. So think of the largest 3,000 companies in the U.S. and Canada, 5,000 employees and up.
Cloudera has the same thing, and they figure it out. I mean, large companies, it's not hard to find. And where's Josh? Is Josh here? Yeah, he has a bigger challenge, right? Like you're looking for high growth retail companies. That's hard, right? Like that's a proprietary list that you have to buy. Whereas I use like 4 or 5 data providers because one of them goes stale before the other one does. So I need coverage at all times, right, to keep my high velocity model going.
The part that I see with the large companies people struggle with is the parent-child hierarchies, right? Of what is the buying units and the Dun & Bradstreets of the world. And my answer to a lot of my customers come to us and was like, Evan, can you just give us the canonical parent-child hierarchy that every company should use? And increasingly, my point of view is that there isn't one. And the reason is because it differs by who you sell to. So the reason is, if you sell at the site level, Dun & Bradstreet is actually pretty good for that, right? Because you have every site. You have Cisco Milpitas, Cisco San Jose, Cisco Palo Alto. But if you site at the product or divisional level, then it's a completely different hierarchy. You don't care about the locations. And so the parent-child hierarchies for most of our companies that we talk to have to be somewhat custom because it depends on who you are selling to, and that's differentiated. And that's why it's a hard problem, not because we can't come up with the list of the 3,000 biggest companies.
Yeah, I find that the better sources are the ones that specialize in something. Like, for instance, Discover.org is great at giving you can navigate now orgs and that kind of thing. Whereas if you just want straight up phone numbers or email addresses, then there is other sources for that too.
Great. I think we're out of time. Thank you, guys. Yeah.